A doctor accidentally injects sperm intended for artificial insemination into a college student's uterus, leading to an unexpected pregnancy for the virgin Sophia. Leo, the CEO of a major beer company and the wealthiest, most sought after man in the area, had battled cancer at the height of his career, which left him infertile. Sophia walked into the small, quiet hospital with a sense of calm, her mind drifting away from the stress of her college life. She had spent the last few weeks buried in books trying to keep up with her coursework. But today was different. Today, she was here for something routine, a simple checkup. Her best friend, Nena, had insisted she go, saying that it was better to be safe than sorry. Sophia agreed, but deep down she felt no reason to worry. After all, she was a healthy 19-year-old student with no history of medical issues. She sat in the waiting room, flicking through a magazine and waiting for her name to be called. The hospital smelled vaguely of antiseptics, and the low hum of voices mixed with the occasional beam of equipment. Sophia's mind wandered to other things, to the semester ahead, to the presentation she was supposed to deliver in class next week. Then the nurse called her name. Sophia stood up, brushing her loose braid behind her ear. She followed the nurse down the hallway, her footsteps echoing the starry silence. She was led into a small room and asked to change into a hospital gown, a simple request she had done countless times before. While Sophia changed, the nurse seemed to be in a rush, glancing at the computer screen in the corner of the room. Sophia didn't think much of it at all. The nurse wasn't the most attentive. She was always distracted whenever she was assisting with her routine checkups. When Sophia finished and sat on the examination bed, the doctor entered the room. He smiled politely, but his eyes looked tired. "Good afternoon, Miss Sophia," the doctor greeted her. "We're just going to do a quick checkup today as usual, nothing to worry about." Sophia smiled back, trying to relax. The doctor went through the usual routine, listening to her heartbeat, checking her blood pressure, and asking a few questions about her health in general. But then he paused. He looked down at the computer screen in front of him and seemed puzzled for a moment. "There seemed to be a mix-up with your file," the doctor said, tapping the keyboard. "It's a little unusual, but it looks like you've been marked as a candidate for a fertility procedure. Are you sure there's been no mistake?" Sophia's heart skipped a beat. Fertility procedure? That didn't make any sense. She had never been pregnant, and the last thing she needed was fertility treatment. "Wait, what do you mean?" "I'm just here for a checkup," Sophia said, trying to sound calm. The doctor nodded, but his face was still creased with confusion. "I have to check with the staff. It might be a mix-up with another patient. You don't need to worry about anything right now. Let's just finish your routine examination, and I'll take care of the rest." Sophia didn't know what to think. Was this a mistake? Her mind raced, but she tried to remain calm, hoping it was just some misunderstanding. After the doctor completed the checkup, he told her he would sort things out and let her know what was going on. She dressed quickly and waited in the examination room, her thoughts spiraling. Meanwhile, at a private clinic across town, Leo sat alone in his stark white office, staring at the paperwork in front of him. He was a man who had achieved everything he ever wanted, a successful CEO of a thriving wine company, a millionaire with everything at his fingertips. But something was missing, something he could never have. It had been a few years since Leo had been diagnosed with cancer, and the treatment had left him infertile. He had always dreamt of becoming a father, of raising a child with the love of his life, Annabelle. But she had made it clear she didn't want children. Annabelle was beautiful, a former supermodel whose career came first. She wasn't interested in motherhood. Leo had tried to make it work, but their relationship was strained. She wasn't the woman he thought she was, and the marriage was barely holding together. Still, he held on to the hope that he might one day be a father, even if he may rely on his surrogate mother. The clinic had been his decision. It was a way to ensure that he could still have a child, even though he couldn't father one himself. He had left a sperm sample with the clinic, and for the past few months, they had been searching for a surrogate. Leo had no idea that the clinic had mixed up his file with someone else's, and that his sperm would soon be injected into a young woman who had no idea about the life that was about to grow inside of her. Back at the hospital, Sophia sat nervously in the waiting room as time passed. She could hear hushed conversation between the hospital staff outside the door. The doctor came back holding a clipboard with a serious look on his face. Miss Sophia, he began, I'm afraid there's been a mistake. Your file was swapped with another patient. It looks like you've been given a procedure that wasn't intended for you the last time you came in for your checkup. Sophia's heart pounded in her chest. What do you mean? What procedure? The doctor hesitated. It seems that you are mistakenly given a fertility treatment that was meant for someone else. You're pregnant. Sophia's breath caught in her throat. Pregnant? She whispered, her hands trembling. But I've never been with anyone. I'm a virgin. The doctor blinked, clearly taken aback by her response. This doesn't make sense. We'll need to run some tests, but it seems your body had already accepted the pregnancy. I'm sorry. This is a very unusual situation. Sophia's mind spun in a whirlwind of confusion. How could this happen? How could she, a college student, find herself pregnant from a mistake? And how would the father of this child be someone he had never met? Someone she didn't even know existed. Meanwhile, Leo's life was about to take a turn he hadn't expected either. The clinic just informed me that the surrogate carrying his child wasn't carrying his child at all. Mr. Liu, the nurse on the other hand of the line, said, there's been an issue. The surrogate you chose isn't pregnant with your sperm. There's been a mix-up with the files. Leo's heart sank. The world seemed to tilt around him. What did this mean? His dream of becoming a father was slipping further away. Sophia's world felt like it was spinning out of control. She sat in the sterile room at the hospital, her hands clutching the edge of the bed, as if that small, simple action could round her. A million thoughts raced through her mind, each one more confused and terrifying than the last. She was pregnant. How could that be possible? She had never been with a man, never even had a boyfriend, and yet there she was, being told she was carrying a child. The doctor, still looking fluttered, stood at the foot of the bed, his face a mixture of apology and disbelief. I know this is a lot to process, Miss Sophia, but we need to run some further tests to confirm everything. We have a very unusual situation at our hands. Unusual, Sophia's voice cracked as she stared at him. I don't even understand what's going on. You were telling me that I'm pregnant, but I never. How could this happen? The doctor shifted uncomfortably, his gaze avoiding hers. As I mentioned earlier, there's been a mix up with your file. It looks like the procedure you underwent was intended for someone else. You received fertility treatment meant for a surrogate mother, and it seems your body has accepted the pregnancy. Sophia could barely breathe as the words hit her. She didn't even know how to respond. Mind race trying to make sense of her new reality she had been thrust into. Was it some kind of sick joke? How could the hospital make a such mistake? She had come in for a simple checkup and was now being told she was pregnant. A pregnancy that wasn't even supposed to happen. Who is the father? She asked, her voice barely a whisper. The doctor hesitated. We'll let you know soon. Sophia nodded numbly, trying to process the weight of the words, but nothing made sense. The doctor left, leaving her alone in the room. Her mind was clouded with confusion. How could this happen? Why did this happen to her? Back at the clinic, Leo was pacing in his office, unable to believe what he had just heard. The nurse's word echoed in his voice like a distant thunderclap. Mr. Leo, I'm sorry. There's been a mix-up. The surrogate you were assigned, she's not carrying your child. Leo felt the air leave his lungs, his legs went weak, and he stumbled back into his chair. What do you mean? How could this be? I was told everything was in order. We'll double check the records. There's been a mistake in the file. You were listed as a father of a different surrogate, and it looks like the procedure was administered to someone else entirely. A chill ran down through Leo's body. He gripped the arms of the chair, trying to steady himself. His dream of becoming a father had seemed so close. He had held on to the hope that one day he would have a child to call his own. Now, that hope felt like it was slipping through his fingers, and he didn't even know who to blame. Are you telling me that the woman carrying my child isn't even pregnant? Leo's voice was sharp, rising with frustration. Not exactly, the nurse replied. The surrogate is not carrying your sperm, but she's pregnant. We're trying to figure out where the mistake happened. It's complicated, Mr. Liu. Liu leaned forward, his mind spinning. A part of him felt betrayed, betrayed by the clinic, by his own body, by everything. He had placed his trust in this process, and now it was all falling apart. Keep me updated, he said coldly, hanging up the phone. He needed to think to figure out what happened, and more importantly, how to fix it. But nothing made sense. It wasn't just a mix up, it was a nightmare. Meanwhile, Sophia sat in a small cafe near her campus, the steam rising from her cup of coffee, doing little to warm the chill in her chest. She had left the hospital earlier that day in a daze, barely able to comprehend the news she had been given. She had tried to reach out to her family, but the words seemed impossible to form. How could she explain something so unbelievable? No one would believe her. They would think she was lying or hiding something. Her phone buzzed, pulling her out of her thought. It was a text from her best friend Nina. Girl, what happened at the doctor's office? You okay? Sophia stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. How could she explain that she was carrying a child that wasn't supposed to be there, a child that didn't even belong to her? She typed and erased several responses before finally putting her phone down. It was easier not to talk about it. It was easier to pretend nothing had happened. But the truth was, something had happened. Sophia could feel it. Deep down in her bones, her life had just taken a sharp turn, and she didn't know where she was going. The next few days was a blur. Sophia was called back to the hospital for more tests and scans, each one confirming that what she feared. She was pregnant, and the baby inside her was growing. But still, the question remained: who was the father? Sophia's confusion deepened when the hospital contacted her about a man named Leo, a CEO of a large company. His sperm, it turned out, had been mistakenly used in the procedure that led to her pregnancy. The hospital had tried to reach him, but no one had been able to get in touch. Sophia sat on the edge of her bed that night, staring at the message the hospital had sent her. She didn't know how to feel. How could she be carrying a child that wasn't hers? How could this be real? Meanwhile, Leo had started his own investigation, trying to piece together the mystery of the mix up. He wasn't sure how, but he knew that his sperm had been used for someone else's fertility treatment. He was desperate to understand how it happened, and more than anything, he was desperate to find out who the woman who was carrying his child was. Soon, Sophia was called back to the hospital to meet the father of the child. She sat quietly in the corner of the hospital waiting room, her thoughts a chaotic swirl of emotion. The days since she had learned of her pregnancy had been some of the longest in her life. She couldn't focus on her studies, couldn't laugh at Nina's jokes, she couldn't even look at the reflection in the mirror. All she saw when she did was a young woman carrying a baby she didn't ask for from a man she didn't know. The door to the waiting room swung open and a nurse emerged calling her name. Sophia stood up quickly, suiting her dress, though it didn't help to calm her down. It was the moment that everything changed. She was about to meet the man whose sperm had been mistakenly used to make her pregnant. When she entered the examination room, Her heart raced as the nurse closed the door behind her. There was a man standing by the window, tall and broad shouldered. His face was set in a hard expression, but his eyes seemed weary, almost lost. He was Leo, the CEO she had heard about, the man whose life has been intertwined with hers by a mistake neither of them could understand. Miss Sophia. Leo's voice was deep, tingled and with exhaustion. He turned to face her. Yes, Sophia answered, feeling a sense of uncertainty washing over her. Leo stepped forward, extending a hand, but Sophia hesitated before shaking it. I'm Leo, he began. I know this is overwhelming, but we need to sort things out. His voice softened and he looked at her with an expression that was almost apologetic. I never intended for this to happen. Sophia swallowed her, trying to hold back the tears that threatened to spill out. I don't know what's going on. I didn't ask for this, Mr. Liu. I'm just a student. I don't have the life of someone like you. Those eyes flickered with something between guilt and frustration. I know, and I'm sorry you are in this situation. I don't know how this happened, but I promise I'll figure it out. For a moment, neither of them spoke. It was strange, standing in the same room with a man whose life had somehow collided with hers. Leo wasn't what she had imagined. His appearance didn't match his aloof, uncaring businessman had expected. Instead, there was an underlying sadness in his eyes, a deep ache that seemed to mirror her own confusion and fear. I don't understand why I'm pregnant, Sophia finally said, her voice trembling. I've never even been with anyone. I don't even know what I'm supposed to do now. My family will never accept this. Leo's gaze softened. I'm not here to make things harder for you, Sophia. I know this is crazy, but I want to let you know that you are not alone in this. Her heart tightened. He was being kind, but it didn't erase the chaos of her life. Everything was turning upside down, and she didn't know where to begin or who to turn to. Leo, despite the stark difference in their lives, seemed to understand that feeling of helplessness. Maybe it was because he too had experienced loss, the loss of a dream, the loss of a family he had wanted but could never have. I don't know what to say, Sophia. This is what I imagined, she said. I understand, Leo said, but the situation, but we are going to sort things out and know how to move forward. The weeks that followed were a blur of confusion and emotion for both Sophie and Leo. They continued to meet, speaking more about their lives, their pain, and the unexpected circumstances that brought them together. It was a strange, fairy connection, but something about their shared vulnerability made them feel both understood each other. Sophia felt less alone with every conversation, and Leo, despite his ever present bitterness about his marriage, found solace in their talks. But there was still something Leo couldn't ignore, something gnawing at him, the unraveling truth about his wife, Annabel. He had known for a long time that their relationship was on the rock. Annabel, a stunning supermodel, had always been distant, consumed by her career and the lifestyle she loved. She had never wanted children. Leo had spent years convincing himself that he could live with that. He had hoped that someday she might change her mind, but she might come around and want to start a family with him. But now, as he spent more time with Sophia, he began to imagine what it would be like to raise a child with someone who actually wanted it. The truth became harder to ignore. It wasn't just that Annabelle didn't want kids, it was more darker than that. Leo hadn't known the full extent of Annabelle's indifference. He had suspected things were wrong in their marriage, but he never imagined the truth would be so painful. One day, as Leo was walking through the halls of the company, a text message from his lawyer flashed across his phone. The message was simple, but it carried a weight that made Leo stop in his tracks. Leo, we need to talk. Urgent. Call me when you can. His heart sank. He knew something wasn't right. He called his lawyer immediately. Mr. Leo, I've come across some troubling information, the lawyer said. We have been looking into Annabelle's recent medical history, and it seems there's a pattern. It looks like she had several procedures, abortion, without your knowledge. Leo's chest tightened as the words hit him like a physical blow. What? Are you telling me she's been aborting her children? Unfortunately, yes. Over the past few years, it seems she's terminated pregnancies without your consent or knowledge. There is more though. We also have evidence that Annabelle has been involved in multiple affairs with other men. Her infidelity goes far beyond anything we've seen. Leo staggered back, the room spinning around him. His legs were suddenly weak, his breath shallow. All the years of trying to hold this marriage together, of convincing himself that things would improve, had been for nothing. Annabel, the woman he had loved, the woman he had sacrificed so much for, had been lying to him the entire time. She had been aborting his children, denying the chance to be a father, and worse yet, she has been unfaithful to him with countless other men. I'm sorry, Mr. Leo, his lawyer continued, but you deserve to know the truth. I recommend you take the actions immediately. Leo couldn't speak. His mind was racing, his heart in turmoil. The woman he had trusted, the woman who had vowed to be his partner, had betrayed him in ways he could barely comprehend. The pain was overwhelming. For so long, he had tried to make their marriage work, to keep it together for the sake of a dream that Annabel never shared. Now, that dream felt shattered, and the truth was staring him in the face. Leo made up his mind that there and then it was time to end the marriage. He couldn't stay with someone who had lied to him, who had stripped him of the chance to be a father. He didn't tell Annabel that day he couldn't bear to face her just yet. Instead, he spent the night alone, drowning in his thoughts, contemplating the path forward. It was the hardest decision he ever made, but it felt necessary. Annabel had robbed him of the family he had longed for, and he couldn't continue living in the shadow of that betrayal. The next day, Leo called for a divorce lawyer, and the wheels began to turn. Annabel was going to find out soon enough, but it wasn't going to be easy. Their marriage had been built on lies, and now it was coming apart at the seam. Leo could feel the weight of it all pressing down on him, but for the first time in years, he felt a sense of clarity. The fog that clouded his vision for so long were lifting, and he knew what he needed to do. Meanwhile, Sophia had been grappling with her struggles. Her family's reaction to her pregnancy has been nothing short of disastrous. Her mother, who had always been strict and demanding, was furious when she found out. She couldn't understand how her daughter, who had been so responsible, could end up in such a mess. Sophia's father, though quieter, was no better. He demanded answers, berated her for the mistake, and made it clear that he didn't think much of the situation. Sophia had tried to explain that it wasn't her fault, but it felt like no one was listening. They saw her as irresponsible, a disappointment. She felt trapped, unable to explain how a mix-up at the hospital had led to this pregnancy. He leaned on Leo. She leaned on Leo during this time, though she didn't want to burden him. Their connection had deepened, and their late night conversation were the only thing keeping her insane. Leo, despite the storm of emotion, was facing his own marriage, offered his comfort to her. One evening, when the tension with her family was at its peak, Sophia met with Leo again, desperate for some peace of mind. They sat in his office, a place that seemed both intimidating and comforting at the same time. I don't know what to do, Leo, Sophia admitted. I feel like I'm losing everything. Leo looked at her with a quiet intensity. I know what it feels like, but I don't want you to go through this alone. I'm here for you. We are in this together. Sophia had swelled with emotion. She wasn't sure what the future held for them, but for the first time, she allowed herself to believe in the possibility of something more. Maybe, just maybe, there was a way forward together. The divorce proceedings were quick, but the emotions behind them were something else. Leo was numb as he sat in the sterile lawyer's office signing papers that would officially end his marriage to Annabel. He had spent years trying to make it work, hoping that one day she would change, that she would want what he wanted. But the reality of her betrayal, her constant disregard for his future was impossible to ignore. Annabelle had never been the woman he had imagined her to be. She had never truly wanted the family, never wanted the life he had dreamt of. In the end, he has been nothing more than a tool, a way for her to climb higher in the world of modeling. Leo had been too blinded by love to see it until now. He couldn't change the past, but he could control his future. The papers were signed and Leo took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decision lifted from his shoulder. He knew he had done the right thing, but the pain in him still lingered. His life, his dream had been built on false foundation, and now, as the finality of the divorce settled in, they all felt relieved and deeply, profoundly lost. But it wasn't too long before something else filled the void. Sophia. The connection between them had grown, evolving from an unexpected bond to something far deeper, far more meaningful. Despite the complexity, despite the uncertainty, there was something about their shared experience that brought them together. They both had broken dreams, lives filled with secrets and lies, but they had found each other in the midst of it all. It wasn't the fairy tale either of them had imagined, but it was real. After Leo's divorce was finalized, he wasted no time reaching out to Sophia. She had been a constant source of comfort for him, someone who had helped him see beyond his own pain and confusion. He needed her more than he had realized, and he wasn't about to let her slip away. Sophia, for her own part, had found herself torn between the expectation of her family and the reality of her own emotion. Her parents had never was been supportive of her pregnancy, and the judgment they had placed on her weighed heavily. But the more time she spent with you, the more time she began to understand that not everything in life could be controlled. She wasn't perfect, and neither was he, but together they have found a way to accept their imperfection, to share in their pain, and to build something together. One evening, after weeks of quiet conversation and emotional confessions, Leo invited Sophia to dinner at a small restaurant in the city. It was a quiet, intimate place, one that didn't carry the usual noise and distraction of the world outside. They sat across from each other, the flickering candlelight casting soft shadows on their faces as they spoke. "I've been thinking," Leo said. "I can't keep living like this, hiding from what I want. I don't want to pretend anymore. I want to be a father. I want to build a family, a real family with you." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. She had never expected to hear those words, not from someone like Leo. He had his own life, his own empire, and yet here he was offering her a chance at something more than she had ever thought was possible. She had spent so many years feeling small, unsure of herself, but in that moment, Leo was offering her a future. I don't know what to say," Sophia whispered. "This isn't easy, Leo, but I thought about this too. About what we can build together. I'm scared, but I know we're both in this together." Leo reached across the table, taking her hands in his. There was no hesitation in that touch, no second thought. He knew that this was the right path for him, for them. He had lost so much in life, but Sophia had given him that love and family that he had so longed for. "We'll figure it out together, Sophia. We have done it and we'll figure it together." The weight of the words hung in the air between them, but there was an undeniable sense of clarity in that moment. None of them knew what the future would hold, but together they could face whatever that came. Sophia's parents began to soften. It took time for them to accept the situation, but they saw how determined she was. They saw how much she loved Leo, how much she had grown through the difficult choices she had made. Leo, too, was learning how to navigate the world outside his failed marriage. He was rebuilding his life from the ground, but now he wasn't doing it alone. He had Sophia by his side, and together they were facing the challenges of parenthood, of love, and of creating something that was truly theirs. Months passed, and as Sophia's belly grew, so did the strength of their bond. Leo's company thrived as he focused more on the things that truly mattered: his family, his future. He kept his distance from the bitter remnants of his marriage, focusing instead on the life he was building with Sophia. And then, on a crisp autumn morning, Sophia gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Leo was there holding her hand through every moment, every contraction, and when the baby finally arrived, he looked at her with awe and wonder. She's ours, Sophia whispered, tears of joy streaming down her face. Yes, Leo said, his voice thick with emotion. She's ours. In that moment, Leo realized that all the pain, all the headache that led him to this, he had a family now, a real one. And with Sophia by his side, he knew they would face whatever came next. Together, we've come to the end of this amazing story. I hope you did enjoy it. If this is your first time, you're highly welcome. Please don't forget to click on the subscribe button and turn on your bell button. For my returning subscribers, a big thank you.